Welcome back to another Opus 13 preview video. Today I'm joined by Travis Pfeifer, as I'm always joined by him, to talk about the Earth cards in the set. How are you doing, Travis?
Mr. Alex, it is good to hear from you, and I'm doing quite well. I'm feeling pretty grounded today, gotta say.
That's good, and you always have a pun just locked and loaded. So why don't you go ahead and get us started with the cards, and we can get to discussing.
You know, I pull those puns all the way from the Abyss, and in this case, it's the Abyss Worm. He's our first card. He is a monster, job worm, which is just amusing to me. He's a one-cost monster like they all are in this set. He's from category 8, and so when he enters the field, choose a forward. Until the end of the turn, it gains 3,000 power and brave, and at damage 3, he becomes a 7,000 power forward like the other monsters. Ah, man, one of these days, maybe Earth will get something that's not just 2k brave, 3k brave, 1k brave. It's like they have no idea what else to do with Earth. And he specifically of all these monsters, like we have, Exodus. We have so many Earth cards that already do this exact thing. So you're not going to run this. Like, why can't they give them something else?
How about, when you play Abyss Worm, choose one forward, it can't be broken this turn.
Yeah,
right?
That would at least that'd be actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, so I guess we'll have to keep waiting for the Worm Tribal.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is Alexander, a card named after me, of course. It's a 2 CP EX Burst summon from Final Fantasy Explorers. It has a choose one forward you control and up to one forward your opponent controls. Until the end of the turn, the former, that's your forward, gains 3,000 power, and this forward cannot become dull by your opponent's summons or abilities. And if you have 5 points of damage or more, it deals the latter, your opponent's forward, damage equal to the highest power forward you control, which is kind of interesting. It's not even the forward you picked for the 3k. Yeah. It's just the highest power one you have. This is my favorite damage 5 ability of all the summons that we've had, but it still suffers the same way as the other ones, and it's not even 1 CP like the other ones, in that it's not very good until you get to damage 5.
Strangest version of Alexander I've ever seen. Is he still a castle here? I mean, I kind of see the parapets on the side of him. Those are pretty big, but I don't know. I've never seen him round looking before. So very interesting artwork.
Yeah, the perspective looking down from below, it's different.
Yeah, but yeah, like you said with the effect, he's all about that damage 5 because, again, we have Exodus, who does everything he does on the original part for 1 CP, and he's an EX burst, so you would only play this for the 5, and just like the other ones, I'm not going to ever play a card that only really does its thing at 5, so he's a pass for me.
And the one thing that we have to see is a damage 5 deck reliable? And if I was going to try a damage 5 deck, it would actually be Earth and Fire, most likely. So we'll have to test that out. But I digress. Let's move on.
All right. Next, we have Lady of Antiquity, who sure looks an awful lot like Shantoto. This is a mannequin, 2-cost backup, multi-playable. The cost required to cast your lightning card name Xdeath forward is reduced by 1. It cannot become 0. The cost required to cast your job mannequin can be paid with CP of any element. I don't even have to know anything about mannequins to know this card is excellent. It's multi-playable, so if you could get all 3 of them down, you can really reduce that Xdeath's cost, and then it just color fixes for you, which is very in line with the Shantoto backup. So yeah, just wow, fantastic card.
Yeah, no, you're fulfilling your mannequin number effects on a backup. If it was a blank backup that just was job mannequin, this would be a good card. So yeah, this is awesome. Okay, next up we have Ingus, which is my favorite Warrior of Light because he's the Earth one. He's a 2 CP backup, category 3. Doll, choose 1 standard unit forward or job Warrior of Light forward you control until the end of the turn. It gains Brave 1,000 power, and you can only use this during your main phase. Not even combat, during your main phase. I don't know. It's like the same as the other ones. You're going to lose Ingus. I don't know if this is a problem that Warrior of Lights needs fixing.
Yeah, and interesting, I can't help but think of, I'm going to be talking about monks a lot during this set review, and a lot of the monks have that stipulation too, like they'll do a buff and brave, but it's only during your main phase. Just like, why? Like, we're so past that at this point. The only thing I like about him versus the other ones, I do think his effect is ultimately weaker, but if you notice, he doesn't actually have to pay a CP on top of it. He can just null himself. So that is his kind of one little advantage over his other version, or the other ones that came out in this set.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's definitely always a good bonus, is just to tap a backup and get an effect.
Yeah.
All right.
Next we actually have a Final Fantasy 13 card. People thought we'd get a lot more of those this set, and it was a little lacking, but here we go. It is Vanille. She is a 2-cost, 6,000 power forward, Job Saint forward. Vanille cannot attack or block. At the end of each of your turns, place 1 Soul Song counter on Vanille. Remove 2 Soul Song counters from Vanille, choose 1 forward in your break zone, add it to your hand. Remove 4 Soul Song counters from Vanille, choose 1 forward in your break zone, play it onto the field. This card is beyond bad. Yeah. So I was thinking, what if that remove 4 Soul Song counter effect said, if you do this, win the game? Very strong, right? But think of it this way. You get these at the end of your turn, only your turn. So to even use that, you have to wait till you have priority in your opponent's 5th turn. So for 4 turns, she has to just sit there. She can't attack or block. Like, I don't know what they were. I don't know what they were. And even the first effect, to get a forward back, we have so much in Earth already that gets us back forwards and backups. You know, I feel like Luminous Puma just blows this card out of the water. What is the point of having a forward that can't attack or block? And why is that on there? Like, to me, that would, I don't know. Was that going to be too strong if Vanille could block? You wouldn't want to block with her. You want to build up the Soul Song counters. This card baffles me with how slow and how bad it is.
Yeah, the one cool thing about it is that you can do it during your opponent's turn. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, we only have 1 card that increases the number of counters on a card, and it only works on ice cards, right?
It only works on... Is it
on
monsters?
Ice or monsters? Maybe that's it.
I think it only works on monsters.
It's the Gestalian Empire, right?
Yeah.
It said, yeah. So as soon as we get another card that increases counters on cards, which I don't know if we'll ever get that, judging on how some of these abilities are cost, not this one, but other abilities, then that could make this a little bit better. But otherwise, you're spot on. This card is weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Graff, who is a pretty cool warrior, which is a very relevant job now. You can search it. So he's a 3 CP Mobius forward, 7k power at the beginning of your attack phase during each of your turns. All the Earth forwards and category Mobius forwards you control gain 2,000 power until the end of the turn. And he has a Stitch in Time special, which is 1 Graff and a Earth CP. All forwards you control gain 5,000 power until the end of the turn. You can draw 1 card. It's a serviceable special. It's easy enough to cast, and you can always threaten people with it. I like this thematically because Graff, when you meet him in Mobius, he is like this unrelenting fighter. He is just like taking down monster after monster after monster in this forest, and he's very unrelenting, and he keeps giving power, so it kind of fits that. I think this could be kind of cool in the Mobius deck. I think this is definitely a good Earth effect, and the fact that it just happens is really solid. You could definitely set up some cards to be pretty potent, and some fight effects to be pretty potent. You're just blanket giving all your Earth forwards 2,000 power. So I'm excited to try it out.
This is one I would have been a lot higher on in the past because I just love my big bodies. But I have to admit, I have come to see the light, the idea of like, the thing is, Earth already has such big bodies that it's like, let's give it more big bodies. It's like, okay. That being said, there's one deck I really like this for, and it's monks, because you want that Ursula to be as strong as possible. So I like the idea of him you go to attack phase with Ursula. Let's say you've got Enecro out, she's 6k, he automatically bumps her up to 8k. Now you can start throwing your monks, anything that prevents Ursula from having to use a monk to buff herself. So I do actually really like this in a monk deck.
He is kind of slow because he's not doing anything. Well, he is boosting the turn he comes in if you play him in main phase 1, and that could be valuable. But he is, I think he is a slower card, but he does buff himself as well, as far as I can see here. Normally they would they would say that it does not affect himself, but he's effectively attacking as a 9k, 3 CP 9k. So I think he's a strong card. I just don't think he's like an unfair card by any means.
Yeah, another little combo to watch out, and we'll get to this card in our last set review, and that's this new card called Sophie, who is a Mobius character and gets powered up by Earth cards, and she wants to hit a certain power threshold for her end of turn effect. So I could see him being a nice little slot along aside her.
Big time.
All right. Next, we have Sherlotta, a 2CP backup from Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, Job Mysterious Woman. If Sherlotta is on the field, Sherlotta can produce CP of any element of the forwards you control. So normally being Job Crystal Chronicle on a backup just automatically makes it amazing because of Norstalen. But we already have Lael, who is a 2CP Earth backup in Crystal Chronicle. And this is just kind of weird. Like, we saw Kamari get some play in Opus 12 because of Kryl, because Kamari would take the CP of your opponent's forwards and then, or characters, whatever it is, and then that way you could use that CP for Kryl to cast their summons. But her getting the CP of the forwards you control, like, surely you're already going to have that CP. So unless I'm missing something here, it's hard for me to see a situation where I would want to use this.
Yeah, I think if you're wanting to color fix, you're already going to be doing it in some way. However, this is a FFCC backup, and that's already value there. So if you don't want to play Lael and you want to use this, it's maybe a way that you get set up more quickly to color fix, and just another option for color fixing. But I don't think it's your primary option for color fixing, because having forwards on the field is never a stable and long-term thing.
She was the original Sherlotta was in a wind, and it did something. But again, she's an Earth, which already has Kamari, Tyro, Shantoto. So it's like, if she was in a different element, I think maybe that could be a little useful. But the fact that they put her in like the most common color fixing element is just
But I mean, that's why they did it. But also, it is cool to see that they printed FFCC and that she had a wind card and they chose to go into another color. Like that's good. I like that a lot too. Okay, so. Oh, wait, what's going on here? I pressed the wrong button. I went back to Graff. Okay, here we go. So next we have Scarmiglione, who is a 2 CP category 4 forward, 3000 power job Arcfiend. Very, very good job. Cool job. He's got back attack and first strike, and when he enters the field, you choose one forward during this turn. If it's dealt damage, double that damage instead. So you can play him by surprise, and when he damages somebody with first strike, they're actually going to take 3k if you've picked them to be the target of his ability, and then if you have any sort of earth buffs on the field, maybe this guy is just going to be first strike killing people, and that's just if we're looking at him in an earth perspective. You could also combo him to make any forward take more damage and then hit them with something else, hypothetically. And then of course you're going to use him in Arcfiends. He's a 2 CP Arcfiend. He plays well with our new Golbez and our new other Arcfiends that we got that are all 2 CP as well.
Yeah, back attack is, again, always solid. He clearly fits in with the new 2 ones. You know, reading this again, I've read him a couple times now. Obviously, he can trade up to a 6k very safely, but I was just reading, it actually says during this turn, if it is dealt damage, so it says the turn. It's not the next instance of damage. So anything you put on them for the rest of that turn is going to boop, boop, boop. So, I mean, yeah, you could stack a lot of little things and they would all double because he just hits them with that effect for the whole turn. So I think this guy's solid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right. Next, we have another 4 character. This is Cecil, his Dark Knight version. He's a 3 cost, 7,000 power forward. When Cecil enters the field, you may receive 1 point of damage. When you do so, choose one forward opponent controls. Cecil and the chosen forward deal damage equal to the respective power to the other. At damage 3, Cecil gains 1,000 power and Brave. I am not a fan of this card at all, and I was really surprised the amount of people who thought this card was great. They thought this card was great. So first of all, I am a huge fan of the 5 cost Earth Cecil. So if I'm going to play Cecil on Earth, that's my go-to. And, full disclosure, I'm just not the type of player where I want to take self-damage. That's just not me. But even trying to look at it from that mindset, I don't know, like taking damage just to have this on-curve body attack another one. Now, I get the idea is that, well, if he's at 3, he's 8k, but I don't know, like even then, like forwards are getting so strong these days, unless they have something really weak, Cecil might very well die when he does that as well. So I don't know, this card isn't for me. Do you feel differently about it?
I do, yeah. And it might as well say damage 2, in that if you're at damage 2 and you play him, you're going to damage 3. So it's pretty reliable to get him to 8k Brave. I also think that you're going to be boosting your forwards in Earth anyway. So he could be an 8 to 9k ping on a 3k body that might survive, and then he's getting you more value. I think it's removal on a body, which can never be underrated. And I actually think he goes well with the 5 CP Cecil. As someone that's played a lot of Cecils in one deck, you have room for them, and because the 5 CP Cecil has if you have card name Cecil in your hand, you can use his special.
Oh yeah,
he's really good special fodder for the 5 CP Cecil. So I think you could run, one of these and 3 of the other, or any type of mix. You could even go 2 and 3 or whatever. But I also think this is just a good card, and this card also goes in the aforementioned self-damage deck. It's a way to deal yourself damage. So if you are going for a damage 5 with some of the cards that we're going to see, one of the starter cards from this set, and there's other cards that are damage 5, then this is the Cecil that you probably want to run to take that point of damage.
Congratulations, you sold me on it. I'm more convinced now.
Yes, okay, that's awesome. Next up, we've got Hugh Yurg, which is a 4 CP forward, 8k power category FFCC, and if you have an FFCCC character, did I just add a C on there? Other than Hugh Yurg, he gains Brave. So, he has Brave. He's a 4k Brave because you're going to have a backup that's FFCC. This card's pretty bad. The other Hugh Yurg is an EX Burst Searcher for Warriors, and there's more and more Warriors. I don't really see a reason to use this other than in Limited.
It's amazing to me that in 13 opuses, again, think of all the trouble with monks and any other Earth card think how often 2k Brave, 3k Brave, people don't use those effects. This guy just gets Brave, nothing else. Like, I actually had to read this twice when I first saw it. Like, it's missing text, right? Like, was this a typo? Where's the other line of text? That's it. He just gets Brave. Like, what? Yeah, I don't like it. At
least he has a cool helmet.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Next, we have our god from Final Fantasy XIII. This is Bhunivelze. It is a 10 CP Earth Forward Job God, 10,000 power, 10 from 10. The cost required to cast Bhunivelze is reduced by 2 for each backup of a different element you control other than multi-element. We'll go into that in a sec. At damage 3, Bhunivelze gains Brave, and Bhunivelze can attack twice in the same turn. And at damage 6, when Bhunivelze attacks, choose one character, break it. So art is fantastic, and I believe this is the pre-release kit promo. So you're going to get a full art of him. Looks gorgeous, fantastic art for that. And to me, he's really interesting. Okay, so unless you're playing him in a mono deck, he's almost always going to be 6 CP. Because he's going to get reduced by 1. Now, something important to note, if you control a multi-element backup like Shantoto, that counts for nothing. So Shantoto, you can't even count her for just Earth. Because she has multi-elements, you cannot count her at all for his reduction. So you are going to need to have different backups. But again, even if you're playing a dual element deck, he's almost always going to be a 6, 10,000 power. 10,000 power is huge. His damage 6 effect is insanely brutal because you can attack twice. So he literally is Brave, attack twice, break 2 characters. But we know how unreliable damage 6 is. But damage 3, Brave, and can attack twice with a 10k, that's pretty strong. So I'm excited to try this guy out. I think he could be a real powerhouse.
Yeah, and he's just super slow. That's it. He needs damage to power up. He needs setup to cost him down, and he can't do anything the turn that he comes in unless you haste him. So very, very fair. I think that slowness might kill him, but happy to be proven wrong on that one. He looks awesome.
Yeah.
All right, next up is Monk. I love this card. It's a 5 CP AK forward standard unit, category 3, and he gets reduced by 1 for every monk or job monk that you have on the field. So yeah, he can become 1 CP. I don't know why they had to make him not become 0. Like, get out of here, Square Enix and Hobby Japan. Like, come on. So a 1 CP value body in monks, I don't mind it. I think that's good. I'm definitely gonna mix this up into my monk lists.
We're of differing minds on this one. As someone who has come around on monks and I've enjoyed playing it, I just, like you said, if he could become 0, I think I'd like it better. But again, similar to Hugh Yurg or Hugh Yurg, whatever, that's his only effect. His only effect is he's cheaper. Other than that, then he's just a body sitting there, which, okay, yeah, then you can have Ursula throw him at somebody. But just like, there's a Dragoon we're going to see later who gets this cost reduction, and it has haste. Like, at least give him Brave. Like, that's, again, it's baffling to me that his only effect is he gets cheaper. Like, monks needs more than that.
Yeah, but he's in the element that recurs people, and the monks can recur better than dragoons can. So it's like you could keep getting them into your hand and just playing them for dirt cheap so easily. And that's fueling Ursula to huck him at people, or just, overpowering people on the board with your super powered, punch people. They're not monks anymore. They're punch people.
Exactly. I hope I'm wrong, but just reading him, I'm not. I'm
happy to concede this one. I don't know. I'm optimistic about it. Let's rephrase it that way.
That's fair.
Okay.
So, because again, talking about monks a lot, well, guess what? One monk wasn't enough. We're going to get a second one. This is Yang. He is a 3 CP, 7,000 power forward from category 4, job monk, of course. At damage 1, when Yang enters the field, you may play one job monk or card name monk from your hand onto the field. Damage 3, Yang gains the job monk forwards and card name monk forwards you control, gain 1,000 power and brave. Everything on the text on this card is fantastic. I just wish he wasn't called Yang. Like, we already have so many Yangs, and in particular, the Yang most people used with monks was the one that brought in Ursula for free. Now, this one can technically do that as well, but one, you have to be on damage 1, which you might think, okay, well, it's damage 1, who cares? But a lot of times, my opening play with that monk deck was turn 1, pitch a monk back up, pitch something, Yang, Ursula, bring the monk back up. You can't do that on turn 1 if you're waiting for damage 1. And again, the buff to the other monks, everything about him's good. Just why is he called Yang? Like, can we get somebody else? We have good Yangs already. Like, we already had a Yang that played Ursula. Like, take it away.
No, you're totally right. I think you hit the nail on the head there. And I would even play the other Yang that makes your monks ping people over this one, because like you said, we have a Yang that does these things more easily. Being 3 CP is kind of a value especially if you were going fire earth monks with Sabin. Sabin deals you a point of damage and is awesome, and can power up Yang quickly, and then like Phoenix could lead to some pretty crazy, like Phoenix in Yang, and then power up your guys, ping somebody, bring back a Ursula, then throw some, like there's so many things you could do in fire or earth. Like, I think maybe that's one place you might see him, but even then it's not likely.
I like that suggestion though. Like, the idea of him in fire with fire monks is more appealing than in just like the mono earth monks.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next up is Rydia. All this 4 love in set 13. Yeah. It's a 6 CP backup job summoner, category 4. Job summoner is good to have. Now, when Rydia enters the field, place a summon counter on Rydia, remove 1 summon counter from Rydia, cast a summon other than light or dark from your hand without paying the cost. And then you can dull her and choose 1 summon if it deals damage to a forward this turn. The damage is increased by 1,000 instead. So you're prepaying for a summon, and you can get a cost reduction in a way as well. You want to make sure that she doesn't break before then, so if somebody breaks her, you're kind of in trouble. But I mean, I don't know, maybe no, but in a summoner deck you're going to be running the other Rydia. I think it's kind of a cool effect. I think it's a little too costly. I'm really back and forth on this card. What do you think? I'm going to think about it a little more. Yeah,
I know what you mean. Like you said, if she wasn't named Rydia, maybe in a summoner deck just to have another job summoner out there. I think this card could be really good in the future. Right now, I don't like it at all. 1, it's not my play style. 2, here's what I mean by the future is that there is no way to get more counters on her. Unless I guess you could somehow blink her, but as she's a backup, that's going to be really difficult. So, but in the future, again, similar with Vanille, if we ever get something that can add counters to a character like this, she could be really strong. And what's really great about is her action ability, she doesn't have to dull to do it. So you never have to like leave her up in case you want to cast that summon. You can just pull the counter off. And again, it can be done on your opponent's turn. It's a completely free summon, but we also have a Rydia forward, the Opus IX Legend, that has like those high roll summon casts as well. Like, we have the Garnet from Opus XI. We have a bunch of stuff already that has this like cast a big summon for free. So to me, right now, I don't see this doing anything different that I would want to choose this one. But again, if we ever get something that can add counters to stuff in the future, then I think she could be really scary.
This is actually the card that was in my head when I was thinking why they wouldn't add a counter adder, because this card would be crazy if you just kept on adding counters onto it and casting big summons. But if you pay 6 CP, and I'm trying to think of the context in which you do this, and all of a sudden you've pitched 1 to 2 cards from hand. Your hand is small, and you're probably holding on to a summon that you're going to cast with her just in case they can break her or something. So what does your hand look like? Are you down to 1 card? It's a summon, and now you've like kind of shot yourself in the foot and you don't have the time to cast the summon yet because there's not a good board state or something? Like,
yeah,
it's too tricky that way to finagle, so I don't know that this is going to see play in the end.
Yeah.
All right, is it me or is it you?
I believe it's me. I think you started with Rydia. All right, so next we have Lilty from Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, multi-playable. This is our standard unit for Earth. It's the 4-cost, 7,000 power unit. When Lilty enters the field, if the cost paid to cast Lilty included ICP, your opponent discards a card from their hand. And when Lilty enters the field, choose one forward of cost 2 or less. If the cost paid to cast Lilty included Lightning CP, break it. As with all these, in limited will be much stronger. You'll probably never ever see it in constructed, and I kind of think this is one of the weaker ones simply because even though there are more 2 or less forwards now than there were before, we've at the same time, like, it's still such a limiting effect to have to specifically target a 2 cost. So yeah, I don't like this.
You know what? And I think that's why it's the weakest, because it's in Earth and it's the color fixing element. So if there was an element that could get the full value out of one of these cards, it's Earth. So that's kind of interesting that that's how it was costed. But yeah, no, I don't like it either. So
I do like that in the artwork. It looks like the sword is like bigger than the character itself.
Oh, and also his helmet. Look at his helmet. All right, moving on, we've got Leo, which is a 1 CP forward, 3k power FFCC, and then Job King, which is great. You can search him. When Leo enters the field, place 1 kingdom counter on him for every FFCC character you control. So you can build up a huge board of FFCC characters, then play him and reap the benefit of all these counters being added onto him. Then you can pay 1 CP and dull him, remove however many counters you want from him, choose a forward other than card name Leo or light or dark from your break zone. If its cost is the same amount of counters that you took off, you can play it onto the field. You can only use this ability during your turn and only once per turn. Now, again, this is a card, I saw it, I read it again, and then I finally noticed that this is a legend. Like, it just doesn't have that legend feel for me. It recurring people straight from the break zone onto the field is super powerful, and you don't have to use all of your counters. So if you have some crazy board state, and let's say you got like 7 to 10 counters on, that means that next turn you can bring back a 3 CP forward, and the turn after that you can bring a 4 CP forward. It can be like a constant thing. You could, keep bringing back like a problem forward with it. You could bring back a 2 CP forward a bunch of times as long as they don't do anything to Leo, but it just seems really slow to me, and he's so easy to get rid of that I don't know how I feel about this.
I agree with you on the legend status. I love the artwork again. It's that playing card background, which is beautiful, but it's so strange to me. This card was just released in Opus XII. It was called Lena. It was the light legend, but Lena was better because Lena had more power. Lena could get more. So Lena got counters when she entered, and then if you put backups in after that, it would also continue to stack up counters, whereas Leo was limited to just his one-time entry. And then Lena also didn't have to pay anything. You could just tap it. And then Lena didn't even have the restriction of using the ability only during your turn, and once per turn. If you had the counters reactivator, you could. So it's just so weird they would release the Opus after Lena came out. He's a worse version of Lena, and he is so weak. I kind of tricked myself into thinking of the other Leo that gets power for all the characters you have. This guy's 3k, so they can take him out with anything. Like, I don't know. If there's some angle here I'm not seeing, someone correct me. But to me, it's just like, why would you ever run this over? Even in an FFCC deck, I think Lena is a stronger option. I'd rather run the other Leo.
You know what? I am thinking about it more, and he has 1 CP. So
true.
If you run 3 of him, it is so easy to like play him, get 7 counters, they ping him off. Next turn you play one, you get 7 counters. And you can keep doing that. You can bring him back and play him so easily. You could Puma him back, and then you for sure have the CP to play him. Like any sort of recursion. There's 1 CP searching and synergy in the game. I don't know if it also works into the FFCC theme, but I guess I'm kind of underrating how nice a 1-cost forward is to get this effect. Like, that's definitely good.
If he's going to be good, I think that'll be his saving grace, is that he's so cheap.
Yeah, and you know what? It really comes down to how slow he is in that he has to last a turn, so we'll just have to see on that one. This is a great one that if people have comments and you can let us know what you think about this card, I'd love to hear other perspectives on it as well.
All right. So next we have Alchemist, a 3 CP backup standard unit from Final Fantasy Explorers. When he enters the field, you turn over 1 card at a time until you reveal Ice or Wind, add it to your hand, shuffle the other cards. So he's our Cascade card for Earth, this time going backwards. Really nothing else to say about these because they all just do an effect in that element. So, they're all solid.
Yep. Yeah, solid card. Okay, next we have the Crystal Exarch. He is a 3 CP forward, 7k power. He's category 14, leader of the Crystarium. And this guy is awesome. So at the beginning of the attack phase during each of players' turns, so both turns, choose 1 forward against 2000 power until the end of the turn. Damage 5. The Crystal Exarch gains. When the Crystal Exarch attacks, choose 1 forward. If its power is less than the Crystal Exarch's power, break it. So you can give yourself 2k power, you're a 9k. Kind of similar to Graff in that he's like a overstated body in that way when he's attacking, which is kind of cool. But you can give it to other people. You can give it to your opponent's Alua to break their bubble. Little things like that are kind of neat. I think this goes into your damage 5 deck. I think this is your payoff for having a damage 5 deck, and the damage 5 deck, if it's Earth and Fire, is going to have a bunch of power up, so he'll probably be plenty strong to take out somebody.
He's got a lot of, again, good synergies with Graff, with the new Sophie. Like you said, he's good to ping off an Alua bubble, anything of that nature. And at damage 5, he's probably, with very rare exceptions, he's going to be breaking something when he attacks because he's got access to that much power. I wish I could tell you from experience what it feels like testing him because I put him in my Scions deck, but this is that card. I can't draw him. Like, there's 2-3 copies of him in there. Just can't draw him. I'm always drawing everything else. And I'm like, I want to play him. I want to test him out. Just can't draw him. But in particular, to me, his most interesting part is that he also gives people power on your opponent's attack phase.
Yes.
So again, if they have a Lua, you pop that bubble before combat, or maybe they have a forward they would trade with. Suddenly my forward's bigger. So he reads really cool. I think he's got a lot of neat applications. I have to draw him first though before I can test him.
Yeah, and I think, and he is hard to fit in that he's a little bit slower. He does give power right away into that combat phase when you play him in main phase 1, but he is not like a ETB 3 CP forward that's gonna get something done right away. So there is that, but overall looks like a really cool card.
Finally, our last Earth card for the set is Y'shtola. Of course, job Scion of the 7th Dawn, best job in the game. We've got a 6 CP, 8000 power forward, category 14. Y'shtola cannot be chosen by your opponent's summons. When Y'shtola enters the field, choose 1 forward in your break zone. If its cost is equal or to or less than the number of jobs Scion of the 7th Dawn you control, play it onto the field. Now, unless you're my buddy Brandon, who likes to tech stuff into all kinds of crazy decks, you're going to play this one exclusively in a Scion's deck. Y'shtola always gets good cards. It's amazing. It's, they clearly love her. She still has her protection of some sort. In this case, she can't be chosen by summons. And this card I have gotten to test out, and I liked the 4 CP Y'shtola from Opus VI. She was a good Scion beater. Man, this card it just plays like, I'm going to quote my buddy Greg Cole, it plays like a dream. The fact that she doesn't have to target another Scion. Yes, she's based on the number of Scions you have. I have so many times with this card. Here comes Y'shtola. I'll bring back Cecil. Break that doll forward. Y'shtola's going in. Bring back Oracle of Light. Bring back whoever. She's just awesome, and she plays super well. If you love Scions, play this girl. You will not regret it. Yeah,
this card seems crazy to me. I really, really like that effect, and I'm so happy they did not make it choose 1 like forward Scion in your break zone. That's just so awesome. I don't know if it's so good that you would play it with like 1 other Scion and a non-Scion deck to bring back a 2 CP forward. I don't know about that, but it's a really awesome Scion card, and really cool that they can keep printing Y'shtolas and keep giving people a reason to play different Y'shtolas, because you can always print more of a card when it's a good card, because then you can just be happy and just print lots of good versions because you can't play them all. So
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, that's it for the Earth cards in this set, and I think Earth is doing pretty well. I think it's better than what Fire and Ice got, maybe not as good as what Wind got, but what do you think, Travis?
Oh, you're more positive than me. I don't know. There is some stuff in here I like. I think Bhunivelze is really interesting. I think Graff could be interesting. The mannequin, probably the best mannequin we got is this Earth backup.
Mm-hmm.
And you did sell me on Cecil a bit, and I actually think Scarmiglione could be kind of like a hidden surprise. But man, there's just some clunkers in here too. Like the Vanille is to me worthless.
The Hugh Yurg.
Yeah, Yurg, like, and Leo. Maybe I'll be wrong about him, but and Ishtola, of course, is fantastic. So in a way, Earth is kind of like, I think there's some stuff that's really cool, and there's other stuff that's like, oh, that's awful. So I don't know really where to think about it.
I'm a total Earth homer too, right? So I'm always going to think it's done well. So I'm not the guy to ask to review an Earth set and give you an unbiased opinion. But you know what? It's going to be fun to play with. More monk support too. Yeah. So definitely some testing to be done and some good times to be had.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to sign off, and I just want to thank you, Travis, for coming on. Everybody, you can check out Travis's YouTube channel, linked in the description below, and he's got a bunch of Final Fantasy TCG content, as well as all sorts of other content, so please go check him out, and then otherwise, we're going to be back next time with what element?
Next time, we will be moving to... is that Ramu? It's lightning.
Jeez. All right. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.